When Walter and I went to visit my in-laws, my mother-in-law, who came to pick us up at the airport, said, "You can't ride in the car, so you must walk home." She snorted and turned up her nose. It's a 3-hour journey one way, and though I'm confident in my physical strength, this treatment was too much. I almost cried, but someone reached out to help me. In the end, it was mother-in-law who regretted it. My name is Jennifer. I'm 30 years old and married. I love mountain climbing, and I met my husband Walter, who is 2 years younger, in a college mountain club. Walter is handsome and popular with women, and when he asked me out, I wondered, why me? According to Walter, Jennifer moves forward silently, even on the hardest routes without complaining, and I like that about her. Walter works for a well-known corporation and earns a high salary. We've been living happily together since our marriage, just like our student days. But there's one thing that bothers me. Oh, it's a call from Mom. Sorry, I'll go talk to her. During dinner, Walter said that and hurried into his room with his mobile phone. Mother-in-law calls Walter frequently, about once every 2 days. Mother-in-law seems to adore her excellent son, and Walter is sweet to mother-in-law, making me suspect he's a mama's boy. But since she raised Walter with care, I think I should value her too. However, it seems our feelings are different. It happened before our marriage, when we went to greet my in-laws. Jennifer is 2 years older than my son? Almost 30, huh? Mother-in-law seemed displeased with having an older daughter-in-law and looked unhappy throughout. Father-in-law said, "It's fine, isn't it? Love conquers all. Jennifer seems reliable, and she's perfect for Walter, who has a weak side." But that seemed to displease her even more. Mother-in-law seemed unable to oppose father-in-law directly, so she decided to bully me without him noticing. "Oh dear, I'm sorry, Jennifer. It seems the snacks I served you have gone bad. I'll replace them right away." When mother-in-law intentionally harassed me, she would open her eyes wide, snort, and twist her lips. I had become like a zoologist, able to distinguish her expressions. "Oh, it's okay. I can eat it." I smiled and cut off the spoiled part of the dried fruit and ate it. I had learned survival skills in the mountain club. Eat what you can of the food. Father-in-law and Walter said, "Haha, that's just like Jennifer." Father-in-law added, laughing, "Honey, that's not good. Don't serve Jennifer something like that." The atmosphere remained pleasant, but... I was careless. I'm sorry. While laughing, I didn't miss her brief, sharp look and a click of her tongue. There were other instances, like when she said, "Look, I went to Italy last week and bought souvenirs," and pulled out a high-quality branded tie for Walter. For me, it was a flimsy t-shirt with a fake-looking logo that was obviously a knockoff brand. "Come on, try on the tie. Jennifer, you try on the shirt too." At that moment, mother-in-law's face showed that familiar expression, and I realized it was another harassment. No? I can't wear a tie with casual clothes." I'm not up for it right now either. I forced a smile to keep the atmosphere light, but inside I was fed up. Afterward, I only used that t-shirt for things like weeding in the summer or as a joke to show my friends in photos. I really hate even looking at it. These harassments were subtle enough that only I would recognize them as such. And when I told Walter, he would just say, "Mom's a bit quirky, so forgive her." However, the malice I felt little by little gradually wore me down. The town where we live is about an hour's drive from my in-laws, and the fact that we could easily visit them if we wanted to was also a source of gloom. Then one day, "Jennifer, I'm sorry for the sudden news, but I've been transferred. It starts next month, so please prepare." Walter's sudden transfer was decided. Walter apologized, but I was secretly relieved to have an excuse to distance ourselves from my in-laws. Plus, the new location was very close to my parents' home, so it felt like moving from away to home. Got it. Leave the preparations to me. I'll ask my family for help too. I happily proceeded with the preparations. Now I can get away from mother-in-law's petty harassment. I was anxious about our new life, but 80% of my heart was occupied by the feeling of liberation from mother-in-law. The move was completed, and I thought I could finally distance myself from mother-in-law, but... "Hello, Jennifer. Where have you been without answering the phone? You're not neglecting my son while hanging out at your parents' house again, are you?" It was another call from mother-in-law. I wanted to sigh heavily, but held back and replied, "I'm sorry I couldn't answer the phone earlier. I was in line at the checkout. Walter might be tired in this unfamiliar environment, so I want to support him with nutritious meals." Mother-in-law's calls started coming every 2 days. Although we saw each other less, we talked more. Most of the time, it was my mother-in-law unilaterally making snide remarks. "My son is sensitive, but I wonder if someone as thick-skinned as Jennifer can understand him. My son's high school girlfriend was a delicate and fragile girl, but his taste has changed quite a bit, hasn't it?" And so on, saying only things that would make me uncomfortable. Does mother-in-law have no other outlet for her stress? I felt like I had become a trash can labeled stress outlet. What hurt the most were the snide comments about children. "Jennifer, you're already 30, aren't you? What do you think about children? I wonder if you, being older than my son, can have a normal child." I was shocked that someone would say such a thing in this day and age, but since it was something I had been concerned about recently, tears flowed after I hung up the phone. What does mother-in-law think of me? Does she think I won't be hurt by whatever she says? After that, the calls kept coming frequently, but when I responded only with safe answers to avoid making waves, perhaps she found it boring and not worth bullying, so the number of calls gradually decreased. I was truly relieved from the bottom of my heart. Then, on New Year's Day the following year, my husband and I headed to my in-laws' house. They were going to pick us up from the airport. "Hey, Walter, Jennifer, long time no see." Father-in-law waved and greeted us. I was honestly dreading seeing mother-in-law, but father-in-law's friendliness was a relief. "Happy New Year, Mom and Dad." "Happy New Year to you both." "Happy New Year, I'm glad you came." "Happy New Year, Walter, good to see you." We exchanged New Year's greetings, but mother-in-law didn't even look at me. Perhaps she was angry about my cold response to her frequent calls. It was an awkward relationship. I was thinking about how to get through this situation. "You must be tired from the journey. Shall we take a break at the airport cafe?" Father-in-law cheerfully suggested, seemingly unaware of the tense atmosphere between mother-in-law and me. "Oh, that's a good idea. Wasn't there a cafe on the second floor?" Walter responded cheerfully, and we moved to a cafe inside the airport. "Should I drive back?" "No, I'm still an active driver." While the men were chatting away, mother-in-law and I were silent. "Excuse me, I'm going to the restroom." After ordering, I said that and got up from my seat. "Oh, maybe I'll go too," mother-in-law said, standing up to follow me. I had a bad feeling about this. Just as the entrance to the women's restroom came into view, mother-in-law walking behind me said, "You can't ride in the car, so why don't you walk back?" Not understanding what she meant, I turned to look at mother-in-law, and there was that expression again. We're going back as a family of 3. You're a stranger, aren't you? I couldn't believe my ears. Walk back? From here to my in-laws' house? How far could that be? And calling her son's wife a stranger? While I was frozen in shock, mother-in-law continued to throw words at me. I was kind enough to call you frequently, but unlike Walter, you only respond coldly. Living near your parents' house has gotten to your head. I don't want to think of you as my daughter-in-law. You're a stranger. A stranger. Mother-in-law's voice was getting louder. I was shocked, but I didn't want to argue in public, so I answered in a small voice, yes, I understand. I didn't feel like going back to where Walter and father-in-law were, so I headed to the airport exit, plodding along. Even though she told me to walk back, this was an airport. There must be taxis and buses. I could go as far as I could and walk from there. But more than that, what face should I make when I safely arrive at my in-laws' house by walking? How should I spend the few days of my stay? That weighed more heavily on my mind. For now, I searched on my mobile phone for transportation to my in-laws' house. There was a bus leaving in just 10 minutes, but that bus wouldn't go near my in-laws' house, so from there, it seemed I would have to walk. It might take about 3 hours in total. 3 hours. I can walk that. With my legs trained in mountain climbing, it's not impossible. But there's a difference between walking for mountain climbing and walking because I'm not allowed in the car due to harassment. Tears welled up in my eyes. Was it my fault? If I had been pleasant on the phone even after being told such things, would this have happened? As I was walking along, lost in thought, I was suddenly tapped on the shoulder from behind. Jennifer, why are you walking here? The voice was father-in-law's. Didn't my wife say something to you at the entrance to the restroom? I was going to the restroom too, and I saw you and my wife talking, and then you started to go somewhere, so I followed you. Looking at father-in-law's kind face, the tears that had been welling up in my eyes overflowed and ran down my cheeks. Jennifer, what on earth happened? I decided to tell father-in-law the truth. Actually, I told father-in-law exactly what mother-in-law had said, and he became angrier than I had ever seen him. How dare she say that to my son's wife? Then he said something I never expected. I'll walk with you, Jennifer. With that, father-in-law stood in front of me and started walking. Father-in-law? Don't worry, I enjoy mountain climbing, and I used to climb a lot with Walter when he was little. A 3-hour one-way walk is nothing. Indeed, father-in-law's stride was firm, not what you'd expect from a 62-year-old. Come on, let's go. We didn't tell Walter we were leaving. Is that okay? I finally remembered that. In my shock at mother-in-law's words, I had just left. Walter will be fine. She'll probably talk him into waiting. I'll contact him. With that, father-in-law took out his mobile phone. It seemed he was texting mother-in-law. He told her he was walking back with me and that the car keys were in his bag. As we waited for the bus, father-in-law's mobile phone rang. Father-in-law answered, his voice filled with restrained anger. It must have been mother-in-law on the other end. I heard what you said to Jennifer. If you're going to say that, I won't ride in the car either. I could hear mother-in-law's panicked voice shouting from the other end. That's not it. She said she wanted to walk for exercise. How brazen. I was more dumbfounded than angry. We'll talk when we get home. Father-in-law hung up and shoved his mobile phone into his pocket. Perhaps because father-in-law's mobile phone was unreachable, mine started ringing next. It's definitely mother-in-law. Father-in-law and I looked at each other. What does she want now? To tell us to ride in the car? I'm definitely not answering. I decided to ignore it too. Father-in-law and I silently boarded the bus and continued to walk after getting off.
This way is a shortcut. There's a slope here for a while, but let's do our best.
With father-in-law occasionally giving advice, it felt like we were mountain climbing together. However, I hadn't planned on walking so much today and was wearing regular boots. Father-in-law was wearing leather shoes. This will surely hurt our feet. During the journey, I hardly spoke, but I did ask once, Father-in-law, are your feet okay? Won't walking for a long time in those shoes hurt your feet? Father-in-law glanced at my feet and squinted.
I guess we're in the same boat. Making a woman walk such a long distance in those shoes. I can't believe her.
Father-in-law sighed. We both thought of calling a taxi, but neither of us mentioned it, intending to spite mother-in-law.
But Jennifer, you're strong. Walking such a long distance without complaining? Walter must have been attracted to that quality in you.
Hearing that, I felt a little happy. Afterward, we continued to walk, buying drinks from vending machines in a grocery store to stay hydrated. About 3 hours later, as the sun began to set, we finally arrived at my in-laws' house. Their car was parked in front of the house. Mother-in-law and Walter must be home.
We're back.
As father-in-law opened the front door, Walter rushed over.
Dad, Jennifer, I was worried. What happened? Why did you suddenly decide to walk back for exercise? Did you hear that from Mom? That's not it. Mom told Jennifer to walk back.
Father-in-law said, looking understandably tired, as he sat down on a chair near the entrance. Mother-in-law, who had come out of the living room, was pale and gaping. No, that's not it. That's not it. It seems there was a misunderstanding.
What was the misunderstanding?
I couldn't keep quiet any longer. You said, since you can't ride in the car, why don't you walk back? Didn't you? This was the plain truth. I hate lying. Thanks to that, I was reminded of my mountain climbing club days. A 3-hour one-way walk was good exercise. Walter looks back at mother-in-law. He knows well that I'm not the type to lie. The eyes of father-in-law, Walter, and I were all on mother-in-law. What? You believe this woman over me? We 3 are family. This woman is a stranger, right? You believe a stranger over your family? Mother-in-law screamed. So, I was not allowed in the car because I'm a stranger, I said quietly.
Mom, I can't believe you would say something like that. Jennifer is an important part of my family. I wanted you to feel the same way.
Walter said, clenching his fist. His hand was trembling with anger.
If you're going to treat Jennifer like this, I'm done with you, Mom. I won't answer your calls anymore. Don't contact Jennifer either.
Walter took my hand and said,
Let's go.
Walter, wait. Walter slammed the door and, without looking back, took my hand and started walking. A year later.
Hey, Jennifer, Walter, over here. You can see the view really well.
Walter, father-in-law, and I were mountain climbing together. Walter received a transfer order 6 months later, and we moved back to our previous home. After the incident at the New Year celebration, father-in-law decided to divorce and moved alone near our house. Climbing together on weekends had become a regular thing.
Shall we have lunch here?
At the summit, we eagerly began preparing our meal. While working, father-in-law started talking.
Mom went on a spending spree after the divorce. Even though the property division was done properly, it seems she's already in financial trouble. She might have been lonely. The divorce was tough, with all the crying and screaming. Putting some distance between us now is probably best for both of us.
That's how it felt.
She should expand her world too. Otherwise, she's the type to take out her stress on those close to her.
I listened silently to their conversation. I'll cherish my own world, so I don't have to take out my stress on others. Looking at the view from the mountain with my precious family, I made that resolution in my heart.
Sarah is my name. Tom, my husband, and I have been married for 2 years. I had hoped to start a family by now, but we have yet to be blessed with children. I enjoy my job and it gives me a sense of purpose in life, though, so I'm not in a hurry to have children, but it's different for Tom. Tom recently expressed his disappointment at me in not yet having children. How soon will you be expecting a child? Please, for God's sake, hurry up. My mother is excited about it. I went to the hospital, but nothing was wrong with me. If you insist, let's have you checked out as well. You're implying that I'm the reason you can't have children? It can't be my fault. How do you know? There are a lot of families whose men are the cause. There's no way I'm the reason for this problem. Don't bring it up again. Then, since neither of us is infertile, consider it a gift and let's take our time and wait a little longer. Why are you being so easy on yourself? My mother needs to see her grandchild as soon as possible. Tom is pressured by his mother every time he sees her. Is my grandchild here yet? He is still refusing to go to the hospital to be examined, which is causing problems. And for some reason, he's convinced he's not infertile. I was so concerned, I went for another checkup, but there was nothing specific that needed to be treated. Tom didn't seem to understand that we only have one chance to have a child each month, and kept asking me if we could have a child yet. I was tired of him asking me, "Are you ready for a baby yet?" Mom told me the same thing today. She said she wished she could see the face of her grandchildren as soon as possible. Again? Please hurry up. Mom is looking forward to it. There's no way to hurry up. Even when we're having a normal conversation, we always end up having the same conversation. And then we start fighting. We have had fewer and fewer conversations as a couple over time. Perhaps it was because we didn't talk much, but we had a lot of problems like this. Mom is on her way over. What? Right now? What does it matter? If she's coming, please let me know ahead of time so I can prepare. You're talking a lot. She has a message for you. Is it about kids again? This is enough for me. I don't mind. I'm not sure. That's what I'm told every time I see her. It's your fault we can't have children, so please, explain it to her. My mother-in-law entered the room as we were having this conversation. I'm sorry to have bothered you, and here you have it. My mother-in-law then came in and handed me something. What is this? You can see for yourself. They're a belly band and a lucky charm. What is the purpose of a belly band? It's critical to keep your stomach cool when trying to conceive, so make use of it. It's too hot to be wearing a fuzzy belly band in the summer. That's the wrong attitude to have. This room is too cold because of the air conditioning. It chills your stomach. Sorry. And how do you use this amulet? It's a lucky charm from a well-known temple for children. After praying there, I heard that a celebrity had a baby. It appeared to bring good luck, so I drove all the way there yesterday, despite the distance. You didn't have to go that far. Don't be so concerned, just because you're so laid back. I'm looking forward to seeing my grandchildren. As I previously said, I went to the hospital and it was not me. I explained it again to my mother-in-law, but no matter how many times I told her, she didn't get the message. Tom was sitting a good distance away from us, pretending as if it was none of his business. Why don't you get pregnant then? I'm not sure why you're asking. Why don't you try another hospital for another checkup? Why not seek treatment at a more specialized hospital? I'll see what I can do to find you a better one. You don't have to do that. I'm positive it's not Tom, so I can only think it's because of you. Tom has not yet been examined. How are you so certain he is not infertile? Because Tom, who was supposedly not listening, abruptly cut the conversation short. Mom, don't say unnecessary things, he advised. Sorry. My mother-in-law abruptly stopped speaking after that. I'm sure a package will be delivered by courier tomorrow, so please receive it. I just wanted to get this to you today, so I'm leaving. My mother-in-law then left me with only a belly wrap and a charm to protect the child. The following day, when the package arrived, I laughed. Inside were all the good luck charms I needed to have a child. Your mother sent a package to me. What was inside? Pomegranates, herring, roe, and peaches. What made her send those? All three are considered lucky foods and are said to bring good fortune to have children. I see. Mom must be desperate to see her grandchildren. I understand her emotions, but it's a bit much. Why are you talking that way about Mom? She is genuinely excited about the birth of her grandchild. Don't you think you're under pressure as well? Yes, but it's not my concern. It's none of my business. It has nothing to do with me. What do you mean it has nothing to do with you? It's between us because we're a couple. It's your fault you are unable to have children, so no, it is none of my business. It's all my fault that I can't get pregnant. But I've been to the hospital and they say nothing is wrong with me. So why don't you go to another hospital and get a thorough examination like my mom suggested? Why don't you ask her to help you find a good hospital? The hospital where I went was a well-known fertility clinic. Perhaps it's just well-known. It could be a charlatan. If you're going to say that, why don't we ask your mom to find one? Finally, you're willing to go through with it. Yes, if you will get checked out as well. Why should I go to the hospital? I couldn't figure out why Tom was so sure of himself. Then I was told something I didn't know before. I've never told you anything, but you've been suspecting me for a long time, and I'm tired of hiding it, so I will tell you. What is that? This is actually my second marriage. What? What exactly do you mean? I was so surprised that I sounded stupid in my reply. I divorced 2 years ago before I got married to you. How come you didn't tell me? Well, I got divorced because my partner cheated on me. She didn't ask for child support or anything, and so I didn't think it was necessary to tell you. Do you mean to imply that you have children? A son, yes. I've never seen him since he was born following the divorce. I'm confused. I can't follow what you said. That shows that I'm not incapable of having children. That's why you were so certain that you weren't? I'm offended that you believe it's because of me. But it's not impossible that you became infertile during the 2 years following your divorce. You still want to point the finger at others. You are the problem, so admit it and take action. I am not referring to admitting or not admitting. You're starting to irritate me. Thus, in my second year of marriage, I discovered for the first time that Tom was divorced and had a child. Even after hearing that story, I wasn't totally convinced that I was to blame for my inability to have children. I decided to learn more about Tom. I'll tell him I want a divorce after I finish my research. I couldn't stay with Tom any longer. I tried my hardest not to talk to Tom because he was always saying hurtful things to me. Of course, we would never have conjugal relations under such circumstances, so I could never get pregnant. My mother-in-law, who was unaware of the situation, continued to pressure me. Tom then approached me one day. He looked irritated. By now, I'm used to being treated with disdain. He opened his mouth. I am currently thinking about a divorce. I don't like spending time with you because we don't talk anymore and all we do is fight. And we can't have children no matter how long I wait. I was taken aback by his abrupt statement, but I responded calmly. What? That's fine. What? Tom was perplexed by my response for some reason. He must have expected me to say I don't want a divorce. Here are the divorce papers. I've already completed all of the required fields. What? Why is it already completed? I filled them out so that I could divorce you whenever I wanted. Do you want to get a divorce? Yes. I was only half kidding. I'm not looking for a joke. Do you really want a divorce? You said it yourself. I didn't expect it to end this way. Did you expect me to sob and say I didn't want a divorce? Yes. We don't talk much anymore, so I thought this would be a good time to talk things through and make amends. So why didn't you just say that from the beginning? I want things to return to how they were. That's impossible. I'll divorce you right now if that's what you want. That is something I do not want you to do. I'm not sure what you meant when you told me you wanted a divorce. Tom continued to complain, despite the fact that he had told me he wanted a divorce. Despite the futility of the situation, our discussions continued. Then my mother-in-law arrived in good timing. What's going on all of a sudden? I went out with some friends and brought you some souvenirs. Souvenirs? She presented me with another amulet. I went to a different childbirth shrine, so I brought you back a souvenir. I've been praying there, and I'm confident it will bring you good fortune this time. We don't need this anymore. My mother-in-law's face lit up at these words. She looked to have misinterpreted something. I had a feeling things were about to get complicated again. Well, whatever. Does this imply that you no longer require it? What? Finally, I suppose it's because of all my efforts. I'm so relieved. It is partly correct. We have to go again to pray our appreciation. My mother-in-law stood in front of me, a happy expression on her face. Tom stood next to me, his eyes downcast, saying nothing. I was anticipating how dissatisfied my mother-in-law would be with my next words. What exactly is it? Don't be so bold as to tell me what I think you're going to say. We've decided to divorce. What? Divorce? Yes. I assumed you were expecting a child. What do you mean that you're divorcing? We were just discussing it. Was this a sudden decision? Not at all. I've been considering it for quite some time. Are you going to flee because you can't have children? That is not the reason I am divorcing him. But that's okay. If you are incapable of getting pregnant, it's better for him to divorce you and marry a second woman. It will be a third marriage, not a second marriage. You knew that? I found out about it the other day. His ex-wife became pregnant shortly after they divorced. Okay. So I can only conclude that you were the culprit. If you leave, I will be relieved. I see. Tom has always been popular with the girls. He'll soon find a partner. Hopefully, our next meeting will result in a pregnancy. So if you've already made up your mind, get divorced as soon as possible. I'm leaving. You two discuss the rest. My mother-in-law then left. She walked away without knowing the truth. We carried on our conversation. Let's file the divorce papers right away so we can be divorced. I want to have children soon. and now I realize I dislike spending time with you. Let's go ahead and get divorced." Then quickly write it. I handed him the papers to complete his part. All I needed to do was turn them in. "Tom, by the way, you will have to leave the house when we divorce." "What? Why?" "I'm making mortgage payments." "Have you forgotten? My parents paid off the loan and bought this house all at once. You were simply repaying my parents' loan." "I was." "So you're leaving because of this?" "I believe we had quite a bit of money saved up." "I don't have any money saved up." "But didn't you say you had approximately $10 million? "That is the money I saved when I was single. As a result, it is not included in the property division. As a result, neither the house nor the money will be mine." "That's correct." "Well, it doesn't matter. You're taking a new path." Yes. In addition, I'm going to sue you and your mother for emotional distress." "What? Why?" "For so long, you've treated me like a defective human being, saying horrible things to me." "It's the truth." "Do you really believe I'm the reason I couldn't conceive?" "It's self-evident. I have a biological child." I told Tom, who had no idea what was going on, everything. "It appears that your child from your ex-wife is not yours." "What nonsense are you talking about?" "I was curious about Tom's partner after learning that his marriage to me was not his first, so I searched his house for clues. Soon after, I discovered a picture. Tom is the type of person who keeps old memories rather than discarding them, and I discovered a few memories in the back of a drawer in his work desk. I looked up her name on social media. Fortunately, I got a hit right away. I quickly discovered what kind of person Tom's ex-wife was." "Isn't this your ex-wife?" I showed him the screen from SNS. Tom looked surprised. It was no surprise. "Is the child in this picture your child?" Tom was perplexed. I went on with my story. "This child clearly has a foreign face. I was looking at your ex-wife's SNS and her husband is from another country." "I'm not familiar with him." "It seems that they're living abroad." "I divorced my ex-wife without much debate because she cheated on me. But before the divorce, she got pregnant and claimed it's our child." "I'm pretty sure it was his child." "Really?" "In any case, you have no biological children." "Is it possible that I am the reason you are unable to have children?" "That, I believe, is most likely the case. I did go to another hospital and my body was fine." "I'm also going to get checked out. Will you drop the divorce and go through treatment with me if I'm the reason you haven't been able to conceive?" "Why would I do that? I've already completed the divorce paperwork. I'll simply file them tomorrow." "Don't say that. I still like you." "You don't like being around me, do you? If you're so popular, you'll find someone new soon, as your mother predicted." "Let's talk about it again." "I'm going to file for divorce tomorrow, and I'd like you to pack your belongings and leave this week." "Oh, no." "Didn't you say you wanted a divorce?" "I'll consult with my attorney about alimony. You'll have a message later." I filed for divorce the next day. We had become strangers. Tom packed his belongings and reluctantly left the house to his parents' place. Tom seems not to have informed his mother that he may have been the reason he is unable to have children. His mother has been nagging him to remarry as soon as possible after the divorce because she wants to see her grandchildren. If he does marry again, I pity his next wife. His mother will undoubtedly put a lot of pressure on that next person for not being able to have children. Since my divorce, I've been working harder than ever at the job I like. I sold the house I shared with Tom. Fortunately, I was able to sell it for a high price, so I repaid my parents the money I had set aside, as well as the alimony I received from Tom and his mother. I'm living in an apartment. I am dating my coworker, who was originally a good friend of mine at work and was listening to me talk about my divorce. And now we're living together in an apartment. If I could marry this man, I hope that we would be blessed with children, and that I'll be happy next time.